welcome back to another episode of the BRAAMCAST. I'm here with Alex. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. We're actually recording these in batches, so I just talked to you yesterday. We just recorded.
I mean, even if we didn't do an episode yesterday, we talk every day anyways.
It's because we have a great fondness of one another. So
yeah, we love the sound of each other's voices.
Exactly. Anyway, today's topic is how do you as a creative go about managing burnout, specifically creative burnout, or just getting burnout from being creative or doing a creative task or something like that. Every creative is gonna experience this, unfortunately, at some point. It sucks, but it kind of comes in waves. It comes in cycles. So how do we go about managing that? What's your first thoughts?
I don't know. I think the mistake I've made in the past was putting too much pressure on myself to make something. And it's not like you can just make anything. You want to make something that's good or that you think is good. And I remember one year I quit my job and I wanted to just go all in. But then that's so much pressure. I mean, it's financial pressure. It's your, you want to validate that you're making the right choice. And so you're doing all these things. You're trying to be creative. And when that pressure's there, it just gets so much worse. And it makes it an unenjoyable thing to sit down and do. And then if you're not being successful and you're not creating anything, then you get more frustrated and it's like a negative snowball. So trying not to put pressure on the process, I would say is a good first step. What about you?
Oh man. I kind of just take it as it comes. I mean, it does help. I think it actually helps getting out of the studio and going to do something else. Or another thing that helps is when I'm experiencing burnout or I just can't create anymore at the time, I think I'll go do something that's inspiring, like either listen to the music that we create, like the genre we create, or I mean, going to concerts are always inspiring, but you can't just up and go to a concert. So I don't know. I think it's kind of similar and different for different types of creative people. So for us, we make music. So what does this look like kind of on a daily basis for us? So sometimes we can be in it and just cranking out songs and tunes and we're just making it happen, right? But then we'll hit this wall where we're like, I don't know what else to do with this track. Or I've been doing this so long, so many hours for so many days that I don't have the mental capacity to continue doing this, or I can't be creative in this moment because I don't have it in me. And there could be some extenuating circumstances with that too. But it seems like when we hit that wall, what is it that you and I do to like overcome that, or do we just let it run its course? Because I feel like once we get over that hump, it's kind of smooth sailing. It kind of comes in waves. It's a cycle. So it's inevitable. Let's say we're working on another release or something, and we're really trying to polish it up and get it nice. And then we just get stuck. And we go like a week or two with really not doing anything or making any progress. It's just kind of like sitting on it. But then all of a sudden we'll get this inspiration from somewhere and finish it. Almost like it was easy to begin with. It was like, where was that when we first started? Why can't we have that all the time? So, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of mysterious, to be honest. I don't really know.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to be intentional about it, you can, but it's hard to say. I've had times where I've intentionally carved out, 8 hours of my day on Saturday and Sunday where I'm gonna do, I'm gonna finish the track or whatever, and then I didn't, because even though I sat down for the 6 to 8 hours, it just didn't happen. Like I couldn't get what I wanted. I couldn't nail it down. Um, but on the flip side to that, like you might sit down and crank out a whole song in one sitting. Um, so I don't know. You never really know what you're going to get, and I think a lot of what we do a lot of times is we do kind of let it run its course. I mean, when things get thrown into our lives, regardless of what it is, something external outside of music, I feel like that does derail us quite a bit, and it's not as simple as just saying, okay, we got to get back to the music though. It's like some of these things are more important than that sometimes, and when there's other things on your mind, it makes it even harder to focus on something that you really don't have any true deadlines, and you really don't, there's no, like, of all the things in your life, it's like this thing is something that can go on the chopping block first when it comes to your priorities. So yeah, I mean, between you and I would say dozens of times over the past few years, uh, we've had to tend to other things for a while before we could get back into the music. But it helps to have a partner where you can talk to them and try to, like, motivate each other to get back to it, give each other pep talks. I think we do that a lot, and we do it well.
Yeah, it's like when, or either that, or we're just, if one of us is busy and can't get to it, they kind of push the work off onto the other one who can get to it. So it's nice to have that constant productivity between the both of us. That way, it's almost like a fail safe or a safety net. Like, oh, I can't do this. I have stuff going on. Alex, can you take over? And then back and forth. It kind of
and then it's funny because it's like, as you get close to the end of the track, like you can smell it that you're getting closer, and you start to pick up speed, and then you both start working, like we both start working quicker, and it's like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then we finish. But it's funny because in the early beginnings of projects, we'll move at a snail's pace, and then as we get closer to the end, we start like sprinting.
yeah,
and everything clicks.
It's like cramming to meet a deadline in college or something, or get that final paper written.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I mean, so deadlines definitely help out. I don't know if this is kind of related to creative burnout, but deadlines definitely help us to, I guess, spur us. When it gets closer to the deadline, you start feeling the pressure. But they only work if there's a negative consequence for not meeting it. Like, if you just set a deadline on yourself, but there's no consequence, then it's easy to say, I'll just extend it. I'll extend the deadline.
Yeah. I think deadlines are super important if you want to be productive in music, and if you want to, or anything creative, and you want to make a living from it. You want this to be serious. I think you need deadlines. I would say deadlines aren't good for creative burnout because, anytime we've done client work, or I've done client work, where you do have hard deadlines and you do have a specific criteria you need to meet, that stressful factor to it really removes a lot of my, like, internal creativity that I feel, like that fun creativity.
Ooh,
that
true.
you just go with where you want. Deadlines are important. You need them to do something seriously, but the best things I've come up with was when there was no stress involved.
Yeah, so maybe there's a balance, or maybe the balance would be, there's, like, you have a deadline, but make sure it's far enough out so that you have time to be creative, because it takes a while, and we could do a whole episode on flow state and like getting into flow state, but we could just kind of hint at it here. It takes a while, for at least for us in music, to get into that state where we're just constantly being creative and it's all smooth and easy and there's no distractions. But I mean, it could take like 2 hours to get into that state, at least an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have to sit here for at least an hour
Yep.
for me to start really being productive and not just, tinkering around. So yeah, so maybe it's you set the deadline far enough out that you know you have to finish it by then, but you still give yourself a little bit of creative freedom because yeah, stress can kill creativity because then you're just trying to get it done and it may not be, as
Yeah,
creative as you think.
and I'd make the speculation that a lot of big artists' albums that you hear, most of the songs on the album you don't really like that much. This goes for everybody. Uh, there's usually at least two or three great ones. And my speculation is that those tracks are the ones that they made before the album was even thought of. Those are the tracks that they started and they were great. And then you thought, let's do an album. And now you've got these deadlines, right? Because you're planning everything and release dates and all that. And as you're trying to meet the deadline and finish X amount of songs, maybe it's 10 to 12. Well, you have your 3 or 4 great ones, but you got to get these other ones done. And so I think it reflects in the finished product itself. Like they're not that great. And maybe those were ones that were hurried along due to trying to meet deadlines.
Yeah,
That's my speculation.
no, I'm with you on that. I think, and that's where you could start talking about quality versus quantity, and that can be a whole nother episode as well, especially
Yeah.
in the music industry. But like, do you take the time to give yourself the bandwidth that you need to create a really quality product, or do you push yourself and try to meet these deadlines, which then could impact the quality by lowering it a little bit? I do think that it is really important. Okay, so one way to, I guess, a remedy for creative burnout could be just taking some time to get out of the studio, whether you are a musician, producer, filmmaker, any kind of creative. You could be an author too, but like putting down the laptop, closing the devices, getting out of the studio and going outside into nature, or just going to do something that doesn't involve a screen or doesn't involve whatever you use to do the creative thing you're doing. Just it kind of resets your brain. Like it gives you a different, it's like a break. I mean, I feel like you
Yeah.
need a break in order to prevent that. It's really not that much different from normal burnout. Like if you work the whole week and it was a stressful week and you just went nonstop, you're going to feel spent at the end of the week and not want to do anything on the weekend. So it's kind of the same thing with creative burnout. The only difference is it's specific to being creative. So something that I've noticed during my work week is because some of the aspects of my day job are creative. So like if I have a really creative week, then I find it difficult sometimes to be creative in music because I'm just like, creativity takes a lot of energy or a lot of mental energy to come up
Mhm.
with something or create something. And so I just feel it's harder those weeks as opposed to doing something non-creative, and then you get the itch. You start to like you get the itch to create something, and so then you have a more productive session. Do you experience that in any way?
Yeah, I would say I do. I definitely do. Especially when I'm away with like the National Guard or something. And whenever I get back, first thing I want to do is music. Um, but also for like you and I are different in that you have the ability to come home from like a long day of work and you can put in good hours where you may come up with great ideas. Whereas for me, anytime I try to do that, I don't make anything good. And I think it's just the way my brain works. Like I need to be fully rested at the top of my day, and that's where like it's like a sweet spot for my brain. It's like I come up with a lot of ideas. My mind's moving quick, and it's just like a lot of stuff popping into my head. And then as I make things, I start to hear additional things in my head of what and then I make things really quick. But later in the day, my mind's spent and it's slow, and I don't think of anything. Um, I could do some mundane stuff like some mixing and whatnot, but uh, coming up with the meat of the song is a no go for me.
Yeah, so well, that's a good point. You're aware of the different points of day that you are the most productive. So, my advice to anybody listening out there who's also making music, or it doesn't have to be music. It's one of the reasons why we renamed the podcast. It doesn't have to be about music, but it kind of is about music. So whatever. But even if even if you're not a musician, like if you are aware of yourself and your productivity throughout the day and how it waxes and wanes, if you know that you're more productive in the morning, then maybe you reorganize your day so that you can use that time right there to be creative as opposed to the non-creative tasks that you still have to do throughout the day, and you can push those off to later. So reorganizing your routine. I actually just did this, but not really for creativity. Well, kind of. So normally I would work from 7 to 4, but then now that I just started working out again, woo, go me.
Yay!
Yeah, go me. So because of that, I didn't want to come home and have to work out. So historically, I don't do well working out in the mornings because I feel sick. But this time, I decided to give myself a little bit extra time. So like 45 minutes just to drink coffee, check social media, just do whatever I want in the morning, just chill. That way I'm awake by the time I start to lift weights and I can actually function. And so I did that. And then, so my whole point is I moved 7 to 4 to 8 to 5 just to squeeze in a workout. So now when I get home, I don't have to worry about working out. I can jump straight into creativity stuff, such as music production, or if I were a
Mhm.
filmmaker, editing or filming or whatever. So I reorganized my day so that I can still get healthy activity in, but also creativity in without trying to kill myself. So
Yeah.
balancing your day and figuring out what, because before that, I would work out after work and then try to squeeze creativity in. And I also thought about putting creativity in the morning, but then I don't know, it didn't work really well because by the time I get off work, I'm tired and I don't really want to work out. However, I have just enough energy to still be creative. I guess I have more mental energy, but my physical energy is it's just hard to, push yourself
Yeah.
to really get intense, which is funny because I sit all day. So it's like
Yeah.
you would think that you'd want to do that, but
No,
so
I know that I know that struggle. I lived that for a few years with Merrill. Like I just sat in a seat all day, and when I come home, that was like my worst stretch of time where I couldn't work out because I was just exhausted. But I was exhausted because I sat in a seat all day, and it drains you mentally.
isn't
But
that,
if you're in a situation,
I was just going to say, isn't that weird? You would think that it's the opposite, but it's because the body was meant to be in motion. It
yeah,
was like,
and before you work a job like that, I mean, I didn't have any empathy for people that did work jobs. I'm like, well, you should have all this energy in the world, go work out. But it's not that simple. It's difficult. In those situations, you definitely have to do it beforehand, if you want to be consistent with it. And when you're in a situation like that, where let's say you are trying to take care of yourself and you are working out and you have a full-time job that stretches most of the day, but then you also want to squeeze in this creative time. Well, for me, what I was doing was I was working. I decided I was going to work 10-hour days and have 3 days off a week. And the reason I wanted to do that was because that one extra hour a day was worth it to me, because those days were kind of a wash anyways. I didn't have enough time to really get into my flow state. So I'd rather work an extra hour each of those days that were a wash and then get one extra whole free day. So then on my Thursday that was off and then Saturday and Sunday that were off, from the first thing in the morning until the end of the day, I was doing music, and I was super productive, and I got a lot of stuff done with music. So if you can't rearrange your day, rearrange your week if you can.
Yeah, yeah. It's whatever your priority is. Make that. You have to make it happen, even if it sucks, and even if it can be difficult. And change is hard at first, but then once you get into that routine, then the routine itself can be a blessing, because then your body adapts and you start to run on autopilot. And then it becomes even easier. So you may find yourself being less creative in the beginning if you switch, but then over time you'll start to get used to it.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
But yeah,
That's
all
true.
of that.
Coffee's big. Coffee's big for me.
I feel like coffee is big for everybody.
Yeah. Like I've made most of my music with coffee. Alcohol doesn't work.
Alcohol makes me sleepy, so that definitely wouldn't work.
Alcohol does not work. Nothing good comes from that. Like I need to be stimulated to that's just how I am. Like if I'm stimulated mentally, I feel like I'm going to be more productive with music.
You should get a coffee mug that says, "I've made some of my best music with this cup."
But it was bad at one point because, coffee's like a appetite suppressant, a diuretic. And man, when I would get going and I was drinking my coffee, like 6 hours would go by and I realized I hadn't had any water. I hadn't gotten up to get food. I was just going. And if you're going and you're making something that sounds great, and because it's so new, as in like the last couple of hours, you're not sick of it by any means, and you're just jamming to your song for like 3 or 4 hours, and then you realize you haven't eaten, you haven't moved. Like that's unhealthy. So
I don't need food. I just need music. I live off of music.
Yeah.
No, that's
more about balance though. Like how do you because if you know how rare it can be sometimes to get into that state of mind where you're just cranking out ideas, you don't want to give it up. You don't want to go do something else. You don't want to take a break. Like I would get annoyed if I had to get up to go to the bathroom. I'm like, man, I'm like keep thinking about my idea that I have.
You're just so mad you're so mad at yourself while you're peeing. You're just like, damn it.
Like that's not a healthy balance either.
Yeah.
So
I think I think balance is the antidote to creative burnout.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the cure. If if creativity was a virus, maybe we shouldn't talk about viruses given the past 2 years.
Well, like one of the, like what you were saying about the walk, like Savannah and I will go for a walk at the end of each day, and those feel like a great reset for whatever else is going on for her and I. Like it gives you time to just like walk it off, whatever's going on in the day and whatever you're kind of bogged down with. It's like a reset, and then you come back and you feel a little bit of, you're reinvigorated to hit it again.
Yeah. Walks. Actually, I will walk in the middle of the workday and just take a break from even if it's just from the computer screen, because I work at a computer screen all day long, and then I'll come home, do music on a computer screen, because we're musicians from the future. We play instruments inside the computer. That's what I say.
Mm-hmm.
Every time someone asks me, "Oh, you're a producer, what do you play?" Like I play the computer. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Or I could say I play all the instruments. I play everything.
Yeah.
Because I have access to everything.
Even other people's voices.
Yeah. Yeah. So I read this book not too long ago that is directly related to what we're talking about. It wasn't about creative burnout, but it was about creativity, how to, oh man, I can't remember the name of it. I will link it in this episode descriptions in case anybody is like interested in reading it. But it was super insightful because it basically broke down how to manage creativity. Oh, it was called Mind Management, Not Time Management, or something like that. And so it was all about. It's definitely geared toward creatives, and it was all about managing your mental states, and it goes into all these things that you think are ridiculous unless you're creative, and then you're like, yeah, I know exactly what they're talking about. Like even just your surroundings. Sometimes your surroundings just have to be perfect in order for you to create. Now they don't have to be. Some creatives are like that. Some aren't. Some can create no matter where they are. Um, but just the vibe of your surroundings can impact your creativity, and that's why you see a lot of artists. Like I just got back from Paris, and a lot of artists stayed in this one area of Paris because it just has that vibe, and so you go where the vibe is, I guess, and that's where you
Yeah.
can create some of your best work because of the surroundings. So I don't know. The book kind of goes into that, and that stuff is important to creatives because it enhances your ability to create, and it can also help prevent burnout, which is what we're talking about. Because you if it's a, let's say you have just a baller studio, right? You walk in and you're instantly inspired just because your space is so cool. Now, most of us don't have something like that. I mean, I have a studio here, but it's not, I wouldn't call it incredible, you know?
Well, I would say mine. I love mine, and um, uh,
You just
yeah,
like
I
yours because you have
realized.
a window and you can see palm trees.
Yeah, well, it's that. One of the places I lived a couple years ago also was just like a lot of glass, and it was in my bedroom, that one. But I'd wake up in the morning, sun was shining through. I had all this like Spanish moss around my windows. It was just a beautiful environment. And over my computer, I had all that I could look at, and it's like that bright sunniness that I think I really thrive off of. Puts me in a good mood, puts me in a good state of mind to create, and that's how mine is now. And so that's what I need, and I don't think I could do it cluttered or in a room that's part of another room now. Like it has to be its own separate space. I need to be able to close the door. I need to like I don't know if you're like this, but I don't like other people hearing me create like making sausage, you know. You don't want to see how it's made. You just want to eat the final product. I don't want other people to hear me making sausage.
I, I, would, I will, I will never think about producing music the same ever again. I would be like, I'm gonna see these waveforms as sausages. No, but
Yeah.
I'm not. So I don't share that feeling. I don't really mind if people hear what I'm cooking up in the kitchen. but uh, but I do find the environment important. For me, my studio is basically just a bunch of equipment, and also I have all of my nerd stuff in here because my wife doesn't want it in other places of the house. And understandably so. It does not fit the vibe of the rest of the house. But I have a bookshelf behind me with all the Walking Dead comics. I got some Funko Pop figures back there. So I got it tricked out. But it's it's the man cave. It's the whole. This is related to having a man cave or a woman cave. It's just your spot, your place to be creative. You walk in that space, and the hope is that you have instant inspiration. So you got to make it your own. Throw some plants in there. You like plants? Throw some plants in there. So if for you, you like light, throw some light in there.
Yeah, natural light and plants. We just did that with Savannah's office. I mean, it was this like junky, cluttered hoarder room forever. And guess what? She never went in here. Even though she had a desk and a chair and all this stuff in here, that's like a place where you could work. She never worked in her office. She never even went in her office because she probably didn't like the vibe because there was junk everywhere.
Oh
And it
man,
was cluttered.
we're gonna hear about this.
Yeah,
This we're
probably.
gonna
And
we're throwing shade on this episode. We're gonna be.
it's
I hope the couch is comfortable.
So, so we moved. I moved everything out. I don't know if she was like working or what, but I moved all the stuff out and just started reorganizing and because we wanted to do a podcast, Civil Scoop, if we're having guests live and even just us too, like I wanted to have a room that feels like that matches the kind of thing I got going with music. Like I need those elements to give me that vibe. And I think we got it. Like we've got our plans in here. We changed the paint colors. We cleared out all the stuff. It's open. Perfect. So now when we come in here, we're like happy to be in here, and it definitely affects the content in a positive way.
Yeah. So some of the takeaways at this point is you need to balance your day or your week, balance your routine to make room and for creativity and put it in the spot of your day or your week where you find yourself to be the most creative. And then the second thing is to manage your mental state. So put your mind in a space where you can allow it to be creative. And this could be, it could be the vibe of the environment, or it could be something else. It could be coffee. If you need more energy, or if you are one of those people that can feel the effects of coffee pretty much immediately. I'm not one of those people, but if you are one of those people that are very aware of the effects happening to your body, then maybe you pair that with a creative session. And it's kind of like, it's almost like a performance enhancing drug.
Yeah, it is though. It
Yeah.
is. Caffeine is.
So, I mean, so balancing your day and managing your mind. I think those are two ways to fight creative burnout. But burnout is inevitable. And maybe it's actually a defense mechanism of your body. I have no evidence on this, but maybe it's that way. Maybe it's a good thing, because maybe it forces you to get out of the studio or get out of your environment and go take a nature walk or go do something else to reset your mind. Because after a while, all of those ideas start to kind of blend in together, and then you just have a big muddy mess and you can't really get through it.
Yeah, go do something fun with your friends and family. Like, don't take yourself too seriously. Like, just don't. Just go for a walk. Go play a game of volleyball. Have a drink. Whatever it is. Just have some fun. Because if you're not enjoying music and you're feeling like it's work, then that is probably not what you want. It's not what I want.
Yeah, or take a shower. That works for me.
Take a shower. Yeah. Yeah, that's always good.
I feel like some of my best ideas happen in the shower. I don't know why. They just do. It's like a magical.
Dude, so what you need to do is invest in an amazing shower setup. Like a custom shower that like has a nice bench where you can sit and ponder. Maybe yeah, I don't know.
No, so what I would do is I would have a stand-up studio in the shower. So I would have, let's say you have 3 walls, okay? But you have a long wall. Well, in the corners, I would have waterproof speakers, maybe encased in glass so you can still see them, but the tweeter and the woofer are, they're waterproof, obviously. And then in front of me, I would have a screen behind glass for the computer, but then I'd have like a waterproof keyboard or something right there in front of me. So I'd basically take a shower and produce while I'm in the shower, because that's where all the creative ideas happen. But I feel like that's a terrible idea, actually, because then I would get so waterlogged, I would never leave the shower. My water bill would go up.
Mhm.
And
So maybe you just need to do something in the pool. Would that have a similar effect? Or like a sauna?
like a floating studio.
Yeah.
It's like a whole pad. There's just, I got a desk on there and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. The whole point is make creativity a priority. I think that's the whole thing. You're going to experience burnout, but when you do, it's not the end of the world. It can be really frustrating, but that's when you just need to get out and go do something. And it's kind of like your sign, like, here, you need to get out and go do something. And then also, I think you should trust creativity in general. Trust that when you go do something, that you're going to have an idea, and that something is going to happen. You're going to get inspiration from somewhere, and it's going to click. And then that's going to spur you to go back to the studio. So it's just, there's this element of, that's why it's hard to put a hard deadline on creative projects, because you have to allow for those coincidences to happen and those things that you didn't plan for that all influence the product and the creativity flow. So give yourself the grace and time to work through that, and then you'll have a stellar end result.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. I will link to, or at least that's it for us. If you guys have any input, I'm actually going to, if you're listening on Spotify, I'm going to put a question in the notes about how do you manage creative burnout? How do you manage your creativity? How do you do all of that? I don't know what the question is going to be yet, but it'll be in the notes. And I'll also link to that book, Mind Management, Not Time Management. I don't know who it's by, I forgot, but I'm going to put it in the notes. So that way you guys can answer the question and let us know what you think, because maybe we're doing it all wrong, Alex. Maybe there's a better way to do it and we just don't know about it.
Maybe there is, yeah. Give us your input and feedback and let us know your tips, tricks, and hacks.
Perfect. All right. That's it for this episode. Peace out.